ask questions. Hello, and welcome to the Offshoot. I'm the host, Sean Nelson. Are you thinking about buying a home this year, or are you thinking about selling your home this year? There is so much going on in this country right now politically, and some folks are not sure what to do. They're not sure if they should sell or should buy. Today, we're going to try to answer that question and many more for you. We have three professionals in the real estate industry here on the Offshoot tonight, and they're going to give us their thoughts on the housing market for the year 2025. First, we have Pollard. He is with Smart Realty. Then we have Mr. Mike Brown, who is with Rlah Real Estate. And then finally, we have Lisa Gaton-Rapena, and she's basically all over the Eastern Seaboard, and she is with the firm called Homeside Financial. Everyone, welcome to the Offshoot.
Thank you.
Pleasure to be here,
you.
Sean. Thank you.
I'm glad to have you all here. As I stated in the beginning, there is so much ambiguity going on right now when it comes to the housing market. I know people personally who are looking to sell their home to move back to the Washington, D.C. area. I know some who are deciding to stay where they are as opposed to coming back to Washington, D.C. for the federal jobs. So let's start with this. What is the housing market looking like for 2025 in the DMV? Is it looking good or is it not looking so good? Damon, can you start with answering that question for me?
Sure. Right now, I still think it's looking good. I still have clients that are looking to purchase in the DMV. I've had a closing just earlier this week, and I had acquired two new clients this week also. So people are still buying in the area. I don't think anything is slowing that down right now.
Do you think that means that we're going to see a better market in 2025 than we did in 2024?
I don't necessarily know about that. There's a lot of changes happening every day, especially with this new administration, and weigh on people's decision whether to purchase or to sell, especially if they're employed by the federal government right now.
Yes, but we also know that in the DMV area, the housing prices are a bit more skewed north compared to most parts of the country. So that means there's a big financial component that people have to think about when it comes to purchasing some homes. So is that playing a role in what you've already seen so far?
I don't think so at all. I mean, the price in the DMV, in the DC specifically, but in the DMV area, price doesn't really scare people. If they make the money, that's what they want, they will get it.
Okay.
So I think the price point, the prices in DC have always been high.
Yeah, true.
So, and that hasn't really, I mean, the houses still move.
Yeah.
So I don't think that's slowing anybody down from purchasing.
But from what I learned, it seems like the average home in the DMV area is about $650,000. Let me turn to Miss Lisa Gaton-Rapena. Lisa, are people able to finance? Well, how are they financing these homes that are in upwards of $650,000? What are you seeing, and how are you helping folks purchase homes financially?
Well, to piggyback off of what Damon said, people that are in this area that are looking to purchase, the market has not slowed down. And with respect to that, because we have a high percentage of federal employees, there are certain salaries that are that lend themselves to affording this price range. And also too, that average, it really depends on where you're looking to purchase in DMV, because you can find properties that are a little that are less expensive. It doesn't have to be at that high price point. But there are several loans. For example, FHA, you can purchase over $1 million with an FHA loan where the down payment is 3.5%. If you're a veteran and you're either active duty, because we have several naval bases in the area, there are VA loans, which allow for 100% financing. There are areas within the DMV that are a little bit more rural than others, and there's USDA financing, which is 100% financing. And then there's conventional as well, and conventional does offer a first-time home buyer 3% down program. If you're not a first-time home buyer or you want to put a little bit more down, no one's going to be angry at you with that, because that'll also help with your mortgage payment. In addition to that, there's several down payment closing cost assistance programs that are county specific, state state specific. So there are lots of ways to help get you in. I would say the problem is not so much purchasing the home because there's the financing part, we can work that piece out. It's more so the inventory. There's just still very low inventory because people are so attached to those low interest rates
Yeah.
from years ago that they're not selling, they're not putting their house on the market. So if anything, that's causing more of, say, an impact in what the options are, maybe pushing prices up
Yeah.
because the inventory is limited. So maybe with this restructuring, shall we say, where people are evaluating whether to stay or go, it might free up some opportunities for people that are looking to relocate now because maybe they went someplace else that was, a little bit different, to have a different experience because they were not working from home.
Yeah.
And so because they were working from home. So maybe now they'll come back into the area. And then also people that are here that maybe they're thinking, maybe I need to relocate out of the area because I want a different opportunity. Maybe they're taking one of the buyouts or the resign, responding to that email. I mean, so it's a push and pull, but it's
Yeah.
not something that I think where there's lots of ways to get the loan done, and there are lots of opportunities and programs to help people along the way.
Well, you mentioned something about the inventory, and of course, here in the DMV, particularly in Washington, D.C., for a few years now, politicians have been talking about the housing market and how there's a shortage of homes in the Washington, D.C. area. And you're saying that if folks come into the area, that will create a demand, which means
Correct.
the price of homes will go up. Okay.
Mhm.
And of course, now we haven't seen any executive orders come out of the White House that could really have an impact on that market. But if people do come back and don't take this buyout from the White House, which I'm still confused by because I thought that Congress can actually do things like that, not so much the administration. But won't that increase the price of homes?
Yes and no. I mean, yes, it will. The demand part we have to look at because now you have people coming back that had relocated elsewhere. They're coming back in. So that's going to cause an upward push. And then at the same time, we have people that are we have different departments that are being reorganized, shall we say. So that's
Yeah.
going to push people back out. So it's that constant push and pull that's going to cause prices to go up and then come back down, inventory to go up and then come back down. So we do this delicate dance back and forth. But
Yeah.
DC has always been a high demand area.
It
So
has, yeah, that's very true. And let me ask Mike this next question because I've been reading about the housing market, and it does, to Lisa's point, the market seems to be good and that it will be better than 2024. But I'm also seeing that it could be even better for the luxury market when it comes to homes. So, Mike, are we going to see people buying I guess, the moderate home more so than the luxury homes, or are we going to see both moderate and luxury going up? And are they going to buy these homes? As when we know, like Lisa said, the demand's going to go up, which means the price is going to go up, which means they're going to be more of a loan or more of a down payment. What do you have to say to all of those things, those factors?
Well, I think because there's such diversity in the Washington D.C. market that you'll have all of the above. You'll
mhm,
have people who are moving out because of the transition, but you also have people moving back into the city. So there's always going to be a demand for
Mhm.
every area. If we look at different neighborhoods in the Washington D.C. area, you see the different demographics. You see people who are, just going into the government and they're moving into neighborhoods that they were never moved in before, lived in before.
Yeah.
So I think that, because there's such a high demand for property, or housing in the DC market, that there will always be buyers. And
yes.
because there's always going to be buyers, there are always going to be sellers.
So
It's
what should
just,
people do? I mean, what should folks do then if they really want to get into the DC market and we know that it's competitive because the prices are going to be high? And like you said, the salaries in DC are above the national average.
Mhm.
So we know this, but you're going to have more competition. So what can you advise the viewers of the offshoot, the listeners of the offshoot, to give them a little bit an edge to get the house that they want in the neighborhood that they want, especially those that have children, the families that have, with kids.
Absolutely. First and foremost, I would say talk to a lender. You need to find out exactly what you can afford, where you are in this whole process.
Mm-hmm.
That will let you know what you can and what you cannot afford. Then you need to work with a realtor. You need to find an experienced realtor or an experienced realtor who is well equipped to guide you along the way.
Okay.
Again, because there's low inventory, you want to be as prepared as possible. Because as soon as a house comes on the market these days, it goes quickly, or there's a contract being offered on it. So you want to be prepared. You want to be pre-approved. And that
that's Lisa, right?
Yes, it is.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So you want to be prepared, and then you want to do your homework. You have to know what you want. So a lot of times people they'll go and they'll visit different properties, and they may go different places in the city. But if you know exactly what you want, again, you are prepared to put an offer because you've already in a place.
Mm-hmm.
You've checked off a lot of boxes.
Okay.
Okay. So you want to be prepared to move quickly.
So the first step again is to find a lender. So Lisa, you are a lender. You basically serve pretty much the entire Eastern Seaboard, from as far
Yes.
south as Georgia to as far north as Pennsylvania. So you're the first person people should be looking for when it comes to their plan, if they have one, to buy a home. Mike mentioned demographics. Okay.
Mhm.
So we heard a lot last year about Gen Z and millennials not being able to buy a home. Okay. What can you offer as the first step in the process of buying a home to the Gen Z folks and the millennials, especially those young folks that have children and just starting out, maybe their first home?
Well, there's a lot of first-time home buyer programs. And also, it's important to know what you can do. The first-time home buyer program, there's lots of different programs available that will help with down payment, closing cost assistance. But also at the same time, we have to do this thing that sometimes people don't like to do, which is called be realistic. And you may have this dream of what your home was going to be and how it was going to have all of these amenities. But then that dream doesn't match the pocketbook. So I try to tell people and express to them, do what you can do. It may not be what you want to do, but it's what you can do.
Mm-hmm.
You need to be pre-approved, not pre-qualified, because pre-qualified means that you gave information over the phone to a lender and they put together a letter based on what you said. But depending on how your income flows in and out, what you say and what it actually calculates out to be could be quite different. So it's very important that you actually go through the pre-approval process, which means surrendering, shall we say, the Social Security number so we can check the credit, and also looking at the bank statements so we can see the inflows and outflows, because not everything is on the credit report. And yes, we do see that, and that does matter. And then also, what is your savings plan? You can't wake up Saturday morning and say, okay, I'm going to go buy a house Saturday afternoon. You have to plan. And the planning is, I would say, you want to give yourself at least maybe 90 days time frame, 30 days to get the financing part all sorted out. If there's some credit issues that need to be resolved, then we can work through that to get you to where you need to be. The next 30 days is going to be finding that property because of the increased demand and the low inventory, you may not see that property or find or successfully have your contract accepted first time out. And then the next 30 days is going to be the closing. So those, I would say, you need to plan at least a quarter minimum in advance. Let us go through the steps of getting that pre-approval and also time to investigate which down payment assistance, closing cost assistance programs will work, because some of them are based on income, some on credit score, some on debt ratio. So we need to go through all of those scenarios, and that takes a bit of time.
Yes. And so with you being the first step, that means the second step, of course, is getting a realtor who knows the market. So
Absolutely.
yeah, so Damon, you mentioned at the beginning of the program that you pretty much have a robust clientele going on right now. You just closed, you said you have what, two new clients?
Yeah,
What Lisa and Mike said, is that jiving with what you're seeing with your clients?
absolutely, absolutely. Some of them go out of order a little bit. They'll always they want to look before they get pre-approved, but I always push them back. Like, I send them to Lisa. She runs them through and gets me, a real pre-approval. She reviews all of their documentation, and I feel comfortable with that, taking someone out once they've been fully approved. They've looked at the tax returns, looked at the pay stubs, looked at the bank statements, because anybody can go online and get a pre-qualification
Yeah.
in minutes. But that does not tell the full story all the time.
And your clients are feeling very good about the market right now. So they are excited to be buying their first or second home, right?
Yeah, first home. I work with anyone, but most of my clients are first-time home buyers. My last client that just closed, it took us about 2 weeks, and we found the house within 2 weeks.
Oh, wow.
And we closed fairly quickly. So it just depends on where you want to be, where the client wants to be, the neighborhood, the location. The closer you get into DC, the tighter it gets. The further out you go, it's a little easier as far as, fitting in certain criteria.
Yes.
Wise, approval wise. But we've been able to do it, and I've been very fortunate to be able to get it done and make a good deal.
Well, it's no secret that for most people, myself included, when we bought our first properties, there was a little bit of nervousness there. Okay. And I'm thinking that there's more of that now because, again, like we said before, we're not sure what's going to happen this year in terms of what's going to come out of the White House, what's going to come out of the Fed in terms of interest rates. So even though, tell me if I'm wrong or not, interest rates right now are between 6 and 7%. And then, like Lisa said, we're not going to get that 2.5, 2.3% anymore. That's just forget that. Again, so should people be less fearful right now? Should they just look for professionals like yourself, like Lisa, like Mike Brown, and say, "Hey, hold my hand and help me through this process"? Should they not have any fear at all?
I think that the fear is it's relative. I always tell my clients, let me worry for you. Because to me, and I don't know, because I'm on the finance side, I think that's the hardest part. Because there's so many twists and turns, and people can do things that can throw you a curveball, and you still have to respond to that. And also, I think people need to expand their mind. There's this idea that, okay, well, I want to be here. Again, it goes back to, it's not so much what you want, it's what you can do. And so maybe that home that you're looking to purchase is not in DC proper, but maybe it's in Silver Spring. Maybe it's in Arlington, Virginia. Who knows? Maybe it's in Delaware. And so it's depending on what type of commute you're comfortable with, because we have, the MARC train will get you in and out. So there are different ways to accomplish that purchase, and it may not be in the location that you were anticipating, but it still can happen. But that's where you have to say to yourself, okay, well, let me at least get myself participating. Let me be an active participant in home ownership. Let me start to build that generational wealth, that equity. Let me start to do that, because no matter where it is, it beats renting 9 times out of 10.
Right.
Absolutely.
And, yes.
But that's very interesting because that is the debate right now, renting versus buying a home.
Yeah.
And
Hey,
so
Sean? So and the other thing about fear, oftentimes we have fear because of the unknown. And so that again goes to when you talk to lenders, when you talk to Lisa, when you talk to Damon, you talk to myself, you get information, that kind of alleviates the fear. The fear is still there, but it's kind of dissipating because you're getting answers, you're getting guidance, you're getting knowledge. And so what happens is the fear lessens. It's still there, but it lessens. It gives you confidence, and yes, you can purchase, you can buy, you can get
Yeah.
into the housing market.
So we're still early in 2025, but some folks out there, now these are all pundits, the word recession is already starting to creep into people's consciousness. So do you think that would have an impact, or is DC, as we always have heard over the last 30, 40, 50 years, is the DMV recession proof when it comes to housing?
I wouldn't say it's recession proof, because there's going to be an impact. And also, we have to look back at history. And this is where history is important. And we say, okay, well, what are the prices? What are the interest rates? What is the income? Some of these things we can change, some of them we cannot.
Mhm.
So again, focus on what you can do. With respect to that, the constant to all of this is change. So we have to be flexible with how we are, I would say, personally impacted by the different changes that are happening. Because what's happening with respect to the federal government and the different branches, it's going to impact everyone in a different way.
Yeah.
So we don't know how, we don't know when, but we know that it's going to, we're going to feel some kind of effect from
Yeah.
it.
So, Damon, let me ask you this question then. This country is obsessed when it comes to demographics, especially when it comes to age and race. Are you seeing anything out there that's saying that uh, who is buying what home in what area? Are you seeing more young Black folks buying homes versus say a few years ago, or are you seeing it kind of mixed between white, Black, Latino, Asian? What's going on out there in terms of demographics when it comes to buying homes? Who is buying a home?
Yeah. It's more mixed, honestly, my opinion. I think it's mixed. And I think a lot of the homeowners are getting younger, actually, also, in my experience. So yeah, I've sold homes to younger people. But as far as the demographics, as far as race or national origin, I've seen a mixture, and we want them to keep coming.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, the DMV is, I think, is one of the most diverse areas in the entire country,
Absolutely.
and I don't think people really recognize it about the city. People want to say that DC is chocolate city, but I've been here for 25, 28, almost 30 years, and I've seen the diversity and how it has helped in terms of home ownership. It has increased the values of most people's homes. But again, this country, for some reason, thinks that some data is just way too important than it should be.
Hey, Sean,
Yes. Mhm.
to add on to what you're saying, a lot of it is because people just don't know. Earlier Lisa spoke of the different programs that are out there to assist you in with down payment, first time home buyers. So I think when people hear about closing costs, or they hear about these numbers about down payment, well, there are programs out there, as Lisa just talked about, that will provide that assistance. I think a lot of people don't get into the home purchasing because they're not aware of it, because they don't know that they're out there, or how to obtain that type of assistance.
Yeah.
Yet it goes back to the more knowledge you have, the stronger you are in terms of the positioning of purchasing a home.
Yeah.
So that's why it's very important to talk to lenders.
Yeah. So again, we don't know what's going to come out of the White House, but they did try to freeze federal funding of federal finances, if you will. And of course, we know right now that Elon Musk has kind of basically taken over the U.S. Treasury. But aren't some of the programs, Lisa, that you're talking about, aren't some of these programs government funded, federally government funded?
Absolutely. And here's the thing too. It's like what people have to understand is that we have to, it's like they say, to be cliche, the devil is in the details. So it's one thing to say, I'm going to eliminate this organization or this branch of government or whatever. Let's just cast the broad brush. But it's way more complicated than that, because we may think that certain groups, organizations are not impacted when we cast this wide brush, but then we realize, see, and this is where trickle down actually does work, or happen, but not in a good way. And so what happens is you cast that wide brush, and then you realize after the fact, because you've seen, and then just following the news, you see there's been a lot of, we're gonna do this, oh, we're gonna change it. We're gonna do this, oh, there's this push and pull, because you can't just fire everyone and expect there to be some kind of functional system. So yes, a lot of these programs are federal funded, but also a lot of them are not. And then two, I think another stumbling block is people think that the programs don't apply to them. And what they need to understand is that you can make over $200,000 in the DMV and still be eligible for these programs. So it's not like, oh, this is for people that make 50,000, 20,000, or on government assistance. Even though you make 50,000, 20,000, and are on government assistance, we can make this work for you too. So there's no discrimination with respect to who can apply, who's eligible, that's specific to the individual.
Yeah.
The criteria of the different programs are income. Are you over that 80% median income for the area? Being that we're a high income area, 80% is a big number. It's a six-figure number.
But let me ask you this question. This is for anyone. Given everything that Lisa just said, is there a way to educate the consumer market about the housing market? Because to Lisa's point, I think some people don't really know that they can buy when they actually can, because they might think that, oh, I only make $80,000 annually, or I only make $50,000 annually, or I make too much money. How can we reach the consumer to let them know that there are all these options available, and don't think that you can't purchase because of your income? Damon, why don't you start first by trying to answer that question?
Sure. Actually, what we're doing right now, when people watch this podcast, those are the consumers. They're going to see, they're going to know this. And I would encourage us to continue the conversation, not just today, but, Mike, myself, Lisa, we're very knowledgeable in a lot of the programs that are out there that provide down payment money, closing costs, assistance. So this is the first step, I think, by doing this podcast. And I think we should do it more often.
So thank you. I agree with that 100%. Lisa, you want to add to that?
Yes, and also another thing I wanted to say is that with respect to the type of loans, I did not mention rehab loans. There is a pool, or there's a lot of properties on the market. I can't really give you a percentage, but several properties on the market may require renovation, updating, or maybe there's something that you want to do. The house, we're in 2025. Believe it or not, a house from 2000 may be considered dated by some or current to the next person. So it's incredible to me and surprising that I've worked in real estate for over 25 years, actually longer than that, but yes, there are renovation loans out there. And believe it or not, there are a lot of people in the industry that have been in the industry longer than I that don't even know this. So it's just because somebody's been in the industry for X number of years doesn't mean that they have that breadth of experience. And at the same time, just because someone's been in the industry for a short period of time doesn't mean that they have that breadth of experience. It can go both ways, but it's important to ask questions, to do your research, and talk to people. Find out their experience and gain knowledge that way. And of course, you could always call me too.
Well, to the listeners and the viewers of the Offshoot Podcast, you heard it here first. You heard it from Damon Pollard, you heard it from Mike Brown, and you heard it from Lisa Gaton-Rapena. You all, thank you so much. So before we go, how can folks get in contact with each of you?
So you can get in contact with me, damon.pollard@gmail.com, or you can reach out to me on Facebook at Damon Pollard. You can reach out to me there, or you can shoot me a text at 804-386-2172.
Lisa?
Well, I am a senior loan officer at Homeside Financial, and you can reach me at my work email, which is Gaton-Rapena@homeside.com. I didn't pick the email, they gave it to me. I know it's really long. The other thing is my cell phone. I always have it with me, and that telephone number is 301-437-8725. Give me a call, we'll make an appointment and talk.
And finally, Mr. Mike Brown.
Okay, you can reach me at Next Move with Michael at gmail.com. You can give me a phone call. Like Lisa says, my phone is always with me. You can reach me at 240-244-6221. You can find me on Instagram and Facebook. So please reach out to us. We're here to assist you. As you can tell by all of our conversation, we're very interested in helping people. So please reach out to us with any questions and we will give you the best answer possible.
And of course, I will have details of all this information in the podcast itself. You know, we will do this again. And I do think that we can reach a lot of people who are on the fence about what to do. And I want to try to educate as many people. And I feel like young people are the demographic that we should really be trying to reach the most, because I sense that some of them are not aware that they can become homeowners and start building that wealth that Lisa talked about. So let's do this again. And thank you all for joining me on this episode of the Offshoot. For my listeners, please like and subscribe to the Offshoot. You can catch me on YouTube, Spotify, Apple, iHeart, or anywhere where you catch your podcast episodes. Thank you all for joining us on the Offshoot, and y'all good night. I don't profess to have the answers. I'm just here to ask questions.